What's up, you guys? Godzilla Fan Freaks coming at you today with another video. And today is not a figure review or anything like that. Today is a different type of video. And today's video is pretty much me just coming up with, at least trying to coming up with like fresh content video ideas for the channel. Just because I really haven't gotten anything new to review and whatnot. So I'm just trying to figure out video ideas. That way, at least there's still some content on the channel from time to time until I do get stuff to review. Anyway, so today's video, the title basically gives it away. I'm basically going to be talking about what got me started. And this is going to cover movies, the figures that you see in front of you. Just going to kind of go over just a little bit. That way you guys kind of know more about me and what got me into Godzilla and collecting. So it all started with when I was about 3 years old, and my dad got me into Godzilla. He showed me my very first Godzilla movie, and I did confirm with him and my mom that it was around the time I was 3 years old. My very first Godzilla movie was Godzilla King of the Monsters. Not a lot of people can say that that was their first Godzilla movie. So my first Godzilla movie was the very first Godzilla movie. I do have memories of watching it when I was very young. According to my parents, I watched it about 3 times a day until we got some more of them. But yeah, Godzilla was my very first film. I do have very fuzzy, vivid memories of being very young and having the Paramount VHS tape and playing it and having my parents rewind it until, of course, I learned how to rewind tapes on my own. And yeah, I can say that I do remember watching it religiously almost every day, 2 to 3 times. And I liked it, and that's what kickstarted my love for Godzilla. That was my first movie, and then I was basically sold. It was burned in my brain, and I was like, I love this giant lizard that breathes fire and causes destruction. And then, of course, that brings us to, I'll go over more movies here in a minute, but that brings us to, then figures that you get when you're a kid, that your parents get you and whatnot. And just like a lot of American Godzilla fans, I started with Trendmasters, and as you can tell, these are the only figures I have left from my childhood. I did have the smaller Trendmasters Gigan when I was a kid, but that thing got destroyed, sadly. Kind of chewed up by one of the animals, I think, and whatnot. But these guys definitely show their wear and tear. Mechagodzilla has a lot of scuff marks. He's missing a finger. I had this Godzilla, which is really cool. This was almost like a model kit Godzilla that you could paint yourself, and then you would you'd put him in a tank of water, and I'll post a picture, and it would be like the underwater crystal cavern thing that would grow around him. So that's where this guy's from, and as you can see, his tail broke. Godzilla there's missing a finger. Mecha King Ghidorah's missing a wing. Space Godzilla's missing his horn, 2 toes on that foot. This Mothra's missing a wing. This Mothra, one of her wings is permanently glued because it broke, and my dad fixed it for me. I got this little clear, translucent green Godzilla. So yeah, these are the things I grew up with as a kid, especially this little puppet. This thing. This is the earliest thing I think I have, is this little green Godzilla finger puppet. This thing has been with me since the beginning. I don't know where it came from. My dad doesn't recall, and my mom doesn't recall where it came from. No idea. But I have this little neon green Godzilla finger puppet. And this is probably one of the oldest things that I have in my collection from my childhood. Definitely very early memories of this, and yeah, so I'm really glad to still have this. That is, very special to me. in a way. But I mean, all these figures, are the ones that I grew up with basically. And then around the year 97, 98 was when, I started saving money and, went to local comic shops or stuff like that, or even the toy stores, KB Toys, Toys R Us. But again, they really didn't have a lot, so there really wasn't a lot that I could buy. It wasn't till, of course, I got way older, and then there were places like Amazon, and then the internet was, really big, and then you could order things online, and then of course there's G-Fest, going to G-Fest, buying things there. But it's like when I was younger, it was, if we didn't find anything at the toy stores, it was we would go to the Tankerverde swap meet like almost every weekend or every other weekend. And what that is here in Tucson, the Tankerverde swap meet is like a giant outdoor yard sale flea market type place. And some people would have bins full of toys, and every now and then you'd find some sort of Godzilla figure, whether it was Trendmasters, or sometimes you'd even find a Bandai American toy. Sometimes you'd get lucky and you'd actually find a nice collectible. So yeah, you had all that. And yeah, that's what I grew up with. And now getting back to the films, like it was stated in my video that I did with Nick Adams from the Monster Report of my top 10 favorite Godzilla films, it was a lot of Showa films. And that's because I legitimately grew up with the whole Showa series. The only Showa movie I didn't see until way later in life was Godzilla Raids Again. But I mean, I grew up with, of course, watching the very first Godzilla movie. And then one that I do remember from my childhood a lot was King Kong versus Godzilla. I watched that one a lot. Godzilla versus Mothra was one that was recorded on TV for me. Sadly, I don't have any of the VHSs of these anymore, or the recorded VHSs that my dad used to record a lot of these on TV for me. Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, was recorded on TV for me when I was younger. Invasion of the Astro Monster, Godzilla vs. Monster Zero, that was recorded for me. Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, we actually had a legit VHS copy of. I remember watching that a lot. Son of Godzilla, I believe, was recorded, and then later on down the road, we did get a legit VHS copy of Son of Godzilla. That I do remember. Destroy All Monsters was another one that was recorded on TV for me. Godzilla's Revenge, we had the Paramount VHS for. I remember that. And again, guys, this is how I got started. And I'm going as far as my very first memories of watching Godzilla, being 3 years old. And this is going up until I was maybe 6 or 7 years old. So that's what I consider like earliest memories, what got me started. So that's where all this consists of. All this consists of when I was 3 years old up until like 6 or 7 years old. Godzilla vs. Hedorah was recorded on TV for me. I believe what I remember is this one was on the Sci-Fi Channel, and it was like a what they called Godzilla Incorporated. So you know how they would have like Godzilla marathons on certain channels, and you'd have like TNT Monster Vision and stuff like that. Sci-Fi had Godzilla Incorporated, and that was when this was recorded on TV for me. I do remember that. Godzilla vs. Gigan, we had a legit VHS copy of. Godzilla vs. Megalon, we had a legit VHS copy of. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, we had a legit VHS copy of. Remember watching all these so much when I was a kid. Terror Mechagodzilla was recorded for me on TV, but then a little later on down the road, my dad ended up finding a legit VHS copy. So, yeah, Terror Mechagodzilla, which is my favorite #1 Godzilla movie. We had a legit VHS copy of Godzilla 1984. Do you remember that? And then Godzilla versus Biollante, we had a legit VHS copy of. And when I was younger, Biollante scared me. And I didn't really like to watch this movie a lot because of that. It scared me when I was a kid. And of course, later on in life, now it's one of my favorite Godzilla movies. I do have memories of having some of the other Heisei films and even like Godzilla 2000 and Godzilla versus Megaguirus on VHS. But of course, that was past the time point that I'm in. This goes back to earlier than that. But I do remember having Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, Destroya, Mechagodzilla 2, King Ghidorah, Mothra Battle for Earth. We had those on VHS. And the last two Godzilla movies I believe I had on VHS before DVD really started to hit was Godzilla 2000, and Godzilla vs. Megaguirus was VHS, but it was a Japanese VHS with English subtitles. I'm really sad I don't have that anymore. But yeah, so that sums up that. But as you can see, I grew up with mainly Showa films. I only had Godzilla 1984 and Godzilla vs. Biollante for Heisei films when I was really young. And so I was mainly a Heisei kid. I grew up with Heisei films. Other movies that I grew up with, Rodan was one, and War of the Gargantuas was another one that it's one of my favorite movies now, but it scared me when I was a kid, and I didn't want to watch it hardly at all. Gyra scared the crap out of me when I was a kid. I legit remember crying. And I'm not ashamed to share that. This video is a trip down memory lane for me. Let's see, what else do I got? Reptilicus. Reptilicus was one that I remember I got for my birthday one year on VHS. Gorgo. I watched Gorgo a lot when I was a kid. The Monster That Challenged the World was one that was recorded on TV for me, I believe, and that was like on TNT Monster Vision or something like that. Dinosaurs, or Dinosaurus, that was one that we had a VHS copy of that I remember. This one brings back a lot of memories. Gappa, because Gappa was a movie that me and my dad would always go to this movie rental place called the Pink Flamingo here in Tucson. It's not around anymore, but when we would go in, I would always want to rent this movie. I don't know how much money my dad spent renting this movie, probably at least almost every week, if not every other week, because I always wanted to watch it. I wouldn't rent anything else but this movie. And so that's always a fun memory of going to the Pink Flamingo with my dad, which it sounds more like a gentleman's club than a video rental store. But Gappa is a big part of my childhood. And yeah, I just remember renting this movie, or my dad renting this movie for me when I was a kid and watching it a ton. Again, we definitely paid more than what the movie was probably worth in the end in, renting it all the time. Valley of Gwangi was another one that I grew up with. Very fun movie. This one was recorded on TV for me. I don't think we had a VHS copy of it. The Giant Behemoth, that was one that was recorded on TV. Love this movie. It's one of my favorites. I want to say I almost like it better than Beast of 20,000 Fathoms. And speaking of Beast of 20,000 Fathoms, I also grew up with that. That was also recorded on TV for me when I was a kid. Pretty much every movie on here except for Mothra. Mothra actually didn't come into my life until I was a little older, until I saw the original Mothra. But I grew up with It Came From Beneath the Sea, The Giant Claw, and 20 Million Miles to Earth, all which were recorded on TV for me. And then lastly, Uh, Perfect. The Last Dinosaur. That was also recorded on TV for me, and grew up with that movie and watched that movie a lot. Richard Boone. Uh, I love this movie. I love the music, even though how corny it is. It's just great to me. So, anyway, you guys, thank you for watching, and I have to thank myself for making myself go down this trip of memory lane of my childhood. This was actually a very fun video to do, even though it was very basic. So, thank you guys again for watching. I hope you enjoyed and you learned a little bit more about me and what got me started as a Godzilla and Kaiju fan. So anyway, you guys, like always, we are Godzilla fan freaks. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.